mentioned during the task force meeting today the Chevy Volt, which the the EPA estimates could get as much as 236 miles per gallon. Is the sales tax the only way that you could get revenue from the people who choose to buy that vehicle?
The other one thing that was mentioned by Representative Kempton, by Mr. Kempton, was if they're partially electric, of course, and if they plug into the electrical grid, there's a type of energy tax that could be imposed upon those vehicles. We haven't really looked at that, and we probably will on our cost allocation study look at the feasibility of that, and maybe we would do a combination of that plus the sales tax on it. Or you could do a higher registration on that vehicle. I think we may run into trouble doing that because it looks discriminatory on the type of vehicle that you're driving. And so we would have to be careful and be sure we had an Attorney General's opinion that that would be constitutionally viable.
Okay. Now, in every batch of legislative ideas, there's good ones, there's bad ones, there's mediocre ones. Are there some that you feel that the task force should completely avoid and drop, or are all options on the table?
Now, I think the vehicle mile tax is very questionable in my mind. And as you heard in the discussion today, there really isn't a good, viable model that has been proven to be easy to implement and to get the categories right. Other than putting in a GPS in every vehicle, which would be, we figure, the cost return would just not be there on that. The other thing that bothers me, it wasn't said in the meeting today, is the vehicle miles traveled is, in my mind, is going against the rural areas of the state, because those people need to travel much further to get to the destination where they have doctors, where they have CPAs, where they have the kind of services that they need. And if they live in a lot of my district, which is way far away, like Salmon, Chalice, some of those way far away from the major centers that have a lot of medical help, hospitals, different things like that, it's discriminatory in my mind against the rural parts of the state, that they would have to pay so much more to travel the distance that they travel.
Right. Two more questions and I'll get out of your hair. In 2009, the monster legislative session last year, the governor proposed a 1-cent tax, additional tax on fuel to help generate funds for roads. The House rejected it several times, I believe. If the task force deems that the appropriate measure, a tax, the fuel tax increase, do you believe that it could get through in 2011, a non-election year?
That's a possibility, depending on what our economy has done in the meantime. If the price of gas has gone way up, which I hope it doesn't, up to the $4 level again, it wouldn't be any way we could get it passed. If it were to drop, if it were to go back down, say, to $2, then I think it would be a simple matter to, yes, that people would say, we know that that there needs to be some adjustment here. I think we could both look maybe more favorably at a gas tax increase, which we realize in the long term is not going to be productive. But they would also maybe be more amenable to a registration increase.
Right.
But I think it all depends on the economy, what happens. If we've still got a lot of people out of work, if the taxes are not coming in on a level all across the state of Idaho for all of the services that we provide, it would be difficult.
Right. Okay, last question. The state has so many needs right now between education, health and welfare, roads. Where do you think that this is on the state's priority list? I mean, how big of a problem is road funding for the state?
I think if you were to look at that we're probably third. I think education, and then health and welfare, and then transportation. I think that it's a high priority, but it's not as high a priority as us keeping up the needs of the schools and our health and welfare, particularly those entities that are in needs of specialized services, such as your Katie Beckett and some of those type of health and welfare programs that are really difficult for the chronically ill people. That will continue to be a big problem for the state, and one we need to try to deal with. We've asked Health and Welfare to do some really investigative into how much they are spending for certain services, and they have cut a lot in this last year, and of course they cut it out in the rural areas where the need is, and keep it more in administrative in the cities, and that makes it difficult for the rural people. So that then becomes more of a problem and higher on the radar screen than even transportation does.
All right, thank you very much for your time.